That's not here.
I think we are expecting Commissioner Angelat's. Commissioner Cow is not going to be able to join us today. Why don't we go ahead and get started? It looks like we have quorum and we're a little after 8:33. So why don't we start with the roll call? I'll do roll call for the commissioners. Commissioner Ding.
I'm here.
Commissioner Donnelly.
Here.
Commissioner Kung.
Here.
Commissioner Watson.
Here.
Commissioner Angelat's is not present at the moment. Commissioner Cow is also not present. Planning not to be present. We're also joined by Council Member Primith, Chief Zielinski, and as well from Fire. And I see a few other folks here. There we go. Morning, Lindsay. We were just taking roll call. So Commissioner Angelat's?
Present.
Present. Great. Okay. We have a fairly light agenda today, but why don't we start rolling through? Do we have any public comment? General public comment?
Yes, we do have 2 public comments. Let me go ahead and get that ready.
Commissioners, please see the story, link below, from USA Streets blog. Kids head back to school and parents return to their killing machines. This article pertains to Joanne Knuckles' previous submittal for the Ramona Avenue neighbors about the safety problem around Holy Family School as well as all the schools in South Pasadena. As neighbors of the high school as well as Holy Family School, we can attest to the risky driving behavior of parents around schools, and this recent study provides data that confirms the problems. We hope the Public Safety Commission will consider a discussion about school safety on a future agenda before school starts, to see if there's any way to make our city streets safer for our pedestrians. Thank you for your consideration. Tom and Joanne Knuckles, 1531 Ramona Avenue, South Pasadena, California, 91030. https://usa.streetsblog.org/2018/09/05/kids-head-back-to-school-and-parents-return-to-their-killing-machine/.
Dear Commissioners, below and attached is the Ramona Avenue neighborhood submission to MTIC for their meeting Tuesday, June 15th. The problem in our neighborhood is both a transportation and a safety issue combined, which is why we are submitting to your commission as well, so that you are aware. We, and I'm sure MTIC, would appreciate any input you might have to remedy the situation. Attached are recent pics which illustrate our twice-a-day traffic and safety problem, which stretches from Roland Street to Huntington Drive. Thank you for your consideration and possible action. Joanne Knuckles for Ramona Avenue Neighbors. Ramona Avenue Neighborhood Traffic Management Plan, MTIC Agenda Number 7 and June 15, 21 Residents of the 3 blocks of Ramona Avenue, from Roland to Huntington Drive. Watch every morning and afternoon as the cars traveling to Holy Family School HFS line up down Ramona for drop-off and pickup of students and cause traffic and safety problems in the neighborhood. We have reviewed the November 2019 Ramona Avenue Traffic Management Plan, While it does suggest some reasonable solutions, it does nothing to address the root of the problem, which is concern for safety for residents and students in the South Pasadena citizenry caused by this mobile line of cars. None of the recommended solutions listed in the plan will reduce this particular traffic flow problem and queuing of cars on the city streets waiting to access the Oak Street driveway onto the west campus. We believe that the quickest, simplest, and most cost-effective solution. Thank you for your consideration. Craig Erickson, Joanne Haler, Tom Knuckles, Joanne Knuckles, Andrew Burke, Gabriella Burke, Caleb Smith, Betsy Smith, Amber Haley, Renee Rubin, Kevin Dunn, Emily Dunn, Cody Dunn, Zachary Dunn, Dan Barry, Susie Barry. Joyce subject, Dr. Kyle Cologne, Dr. Linda Hu.
Okay, thank you for your public comment. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's the end of the public comment.
Okay, thank you. You know, I was not able to follow the full link description. Could that be sent out to the commission members, the link that was mentioned in the first public comment?
Yes, I will go ahead and email you guys.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I have a quick question. We discussed it a little bit before, but in a situation where there's an overlapping issue between MTIC and public safety, do we have a mechanism to coordinate or collaborate between the two commissions, or is it just going to be ad hoc depending on the issue?
So if I could step in, I'm sorry, Councilmember Privet, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chief Selinsky. I just want to let you know I'm the liaison for both commissions. So, I would be aware, I kind of would be a clearinghouse, but I defer to the chief as far as protocol.
Thank you. So in essence, Councilmember Privet is correct. Since he sits on both committees, in this case, it actually is beneficial in that he has that information. But normally what would happen is if an issue such as this were to come to the Public Safety Commission, we would also include and send it over to the MTIC and try to work as a collaborative group, sharing information and whatnot. Usually we refer to council's direction as to which commission would take the lead on it. So that's been the practice previously. And I imagine going forward with this, it'll be very similar.
Okay, thanks. I figured it was something like that.
And my sense is that if there are situations where there's more in-depth involvement, that perhaps we would discuss maybe a joint subcommittee or something along those lines. But I think having the same council liaison makes a lot of sense.
Right, and Director Abbas attends both commissions as well. And I'll just tell you that MTIC has had two discussion items on this particular problem. There's been a full study. Commissioners have visited the site. They've done some investigation. So they're continuing to look into what can be done. It is a serious matter. And there are, a lot of neighbors are very interested in seeing if there's some kind of solution that that the commissions can come up with. And then on the school safety, that's not something that MTIC has been dealing with. It's mostly the Ramona Avenue traffic issue. They have not taken up any of the school safety related issues that Ms. Knuckles' article refers to.
Okay, and I think that's something that has traditionally, and I think based on what's in our charter, has fallen within our purview, but I think obviously there is overlap given traffic issues. So I guess we can sort of see if there's more to, these sorts of issues that come up going forward, how we want to address the breakdown. But yeah, traditionally, I think that's a public safety, the school safety is a public safety issue.
So traditionally, the police would work with the school district on coming up with a safety plan or addressing those issues. And as we move forward in the year and school start date comes up, we'll be working with them. We have some of the members of our traffic unit on today that are watching, and we work closely. They work closely with the school district, so we'll address those.
Can I ask a clarifying question? What's your jurisdiction, since it's not like an LEA with a private school that's referenced, if it's outside the South Pass Public School, to work on traffic calming issues?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so I certainly when you reference the district, I presume you mean South Pasadena Unified, but at least one commenter was referring to Holy Family, which would be probably part of the LA Diocese. What's the mechanism to work with an independent or private school?
It's the same mechanism. We still work independently with those private schools as well as the school district. So even though they are private, we don't discriminate. We still, their concerns are ours as well.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's anything further, why don't we jump into the next item, which is our minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any comment, changes, edits to those minutes? Assuming none, does anybody want to move to adopt them? Okay, Grace is raising her hand.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so Grace has moved. Do you have a second?
Oh,
Second.
go ahead, Lisa.
I'll second.
Okay, so Grace moved, Lisa second, and I think let's take a vote. Commissioner Kung,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Angelatz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ding.
Aye.
And
Yes.
I will say yes as well, so that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so next up is the Fremont Avenue and Monterey Road traffic incident update. Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. So traffic and related issues have been a significant concern to the health and safety of South Pasadena. Earlier this year, a public comment was received from the council for traffic conditions specifically at the intersection of Fremont Avenue and Monterey Road. And council directed staff to present an in-depth look at those issues. As I mentioned, just specifically dealing with that intersection. So if we can go back a little bit, Fremont Avenue, it's a 2-lane minor arterial roadway. It carries high volumes of traffic. It is rated at 30 miles per hour. And just to kind of give you a little bit of a perspective of how many cars drive on it, it's approximately 18,494 cars travel on Fremont Avenue daily. And this is actually down 29% from 2014 when we last did the study, which had 26,000. So a number of cars, almost 30% of cars have shifted off of Fremont. Monterey Road is a 4-lane arterial roadway, and it has a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour. And the intersection is a 4-way intersection controlled by traffic signals at in each direction. The city performed a speed survey on Fremont Avenue, as I mentioned, in 2014, indicating that the average vehicle that traveled down Fremont Avenue was traveling at 28 miles an hour. And as I mentioned, the posted speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Although a small number of vehicles were observed exceeding that limit, they were within the 85th percentile and within 3 miles an hour of the speed limit. So looking at the police department's data going back to 2019, so we went back roughly 2.5 years, we only had 2 reportable collisions and an additional 6 minor injury collisions where not minor injury, but minor traffic collisions where information was exchanged. So a total of 8 collisions in total, and the total number of citations issued during that same time period were 12. And the police department looked at a number of different things, including what we were doing to combat not only the volume of traffic and help the flow of traffic, but also reduce the possibility of collisions. And we have a number of different mechanisms in place, which include enforcement, an educational component, which also includes the internet, where we post safety tips on driving in traffic on our website. We have our school resource officer that addresses the kids when school's in session. It's not only on their driving, but also the pedestrian safety as they walk to and from school. We have multi-jurisdictional task force. And what that means is we call in agencies or traffic officers from our surrounding agencies to assist us on specific traffic enforcement details. And likewise, when they have issues, we also reciprocate and send our officers over there to assist. And everything we do when we're looking at traffic enforcement, it's the 5 E's, which is education, encouragement, enforcement, evaluation, and engineering. So in a sense, what that really means is it's not just the police department's problem, it's a community problem. Today, we have also our public works director, Shahid Abbas, because he will tackle the engineering portion of it. And I know as we talked earlier today, we talked about the crossover with MTIC. He's the liaison for the MTIC committee, and he really focuses on the roadway design and if there's improvements to be made there. Law enforcement, as we talk about the education component, and then of course the enforcement component. But there's missing components there, and that is the community input. And community input either through public comments, as we heard earlier, or through outreach. I know in the I think it was 2019, we met with the Rollins Street and Fremont Avenue residents to look at some long-term solutions there. One of the problems we have when we talk about traffic enforcement addressing issues is it's like a balloon. If we press in one side, it's got to pop out somewhere else. So law enforcement can go over there, we can be present and maybe stem the violations for a short period of time, and then the violations tend to come back. So we want to look at a long-term solution. And what we want to be careful of is not to implement something with a knee-jerk reaction. And as I mentioned, push those violations to another neighborhood that maybe hasn't seen those problems. So we're looking for long-term solutions. And this is where all of us coming together and looking at it really pays off. In short, the intersection specifically really has a low number of collisions and or violations that we've seen based on the data. Given the limited number of data, there's really nothing we could point to specifically that would say there is a specific violation or there is a specific cause of the collisions, because with 8 collisions over a 3-year period, they were just so varied. If you had to put a specific cause to it, I think the safest one and the most reasonable one would be that people were not paying attention to signs, be it a speed limit sign or a turn sign, but there was no overbearing one specific issue. And so what I'm asking for today, after, of course, if there are any questions, is that the commission approve and recommend that this report be given to council, which there will be another presentation, hopefully at the next council meeting, where we can present this information to them. So aside from that, I'm happy to take any questions or answer any questions that anybody has. And as I mentioned, also our public works director, Shahid Abbas, is on, and he is willing to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a clarification question. You mentioned reportable collisions. What constitutes a reportable collision?
So a reportable collision is any collision that we send to the state SWITRS, which is the agency that collects all the data regarding traffic collisions. If it is a minor traffic collision with no injuries, we are not required to take a report. Sometimes drivers do not want to report. And in that case, we simply exchange information. Those would not be reportable. So anytime there is a police response and a report is taken, that is given to the state, and those are the records I'm referring to.
Okay.
And for instance, an injury collision would be a mandatory reportable collision. We would take a report on that. So we were talking about minor injury, or I'm sorry, not minor injury, minor damage or no damage type collisions.
Kind of a related question. Does dispatch or does the department have guidance that if it is a non-injury, like just basically a small fender bender, that police will not be dispatched, or what's the kind of guidance on that?
Good question. No, we respond on all traffic collisions. And
Okay.
then once we're on scene and we talk to the individual parties, determine the nature of the collision, the extent of the damage, then a determination is made. For us not to take a report, it is typically at the involved party's request.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, we had 2 that were reported, 6 that were non-reported. Those were non-injuries where parties would have said they didn't want a collision and they preferred to handle it privately.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the traffic volume. Looks like there's been a substantial reduction. Have we seen that, as you mentioned, Chief, move over to Fair Oaks or Meridian, or is it just a decrease in traffic volume on Fremont?
I'm actually going to refer that to our public works director because he's familiar with, he's definitely more qualified to give that answer as he's been privy to some of the surveys.
Sure.
Hey, this is Shahid Abbas, Director of Public Works. That's a good question, you know. I cannot tell you for certain because the city does not have a comprehensive data which shows where the traffic volume has moved over, but there are 2 possible avenues where the traffic volume can go. One is Meridian Avenue and the other one is Fair Oaks Avenue. So the data collected on Meridian Avenue shows some increase on Meridian Avenue volume. It's not all. It's not the complete 30% or 28% reduction on Fremont Avenue. So my best guess is, professional guess is partially moved to Meridian, Orange Grove, and Fair Oaks Avenue.
And is there an ideal number that we would be targeting in terms of daily volumes?
Not really. Every city, most of the volume which comes into the city has no control. 95 to 97% of the traffic which comes in and exits the city doesn't have a destination and origin in the city. So that being said, we really have no control. So we can go from the capacity, you know, what is the capacity of a roadway and when the congestion starts. Fremont is almost flowing at its optimal capacity. And part of the reason is we have a railroad track and we get a train after every, I believe, 3.5 minutes, another train, and by the time it goes up and it comes back, so that creates a lot of congestion. So the Fremont has a lot of congestion of traffic, cut through traffic, you know, not north-south, you know. So, but generally, from the engineering design point of view, a single lane on a collector or an arterials carries a traffic somewhere between 1,600 to 2,100 vehicles per hour per lane. But again, that depends upon how many traffic signals we have, what kind of other obstacles we have on the road. But a Fremont Avenue, I would say it will limit somewhere between 1,000 to 1,200 vehicles per hour per lane.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, without the data, I would concur with Director Abbas that we're seeing traffic flows greater in other areas and other arterial roadways or cut throughs. But of course, I don't, as Shahid Abbas mentioned, I don't have the data to support that. It's just a visual estimation. Are there any other questions?
I had one other question. I know that I mean, I have sort of my own thoughts and guesses as to where, you know, why it's become such an artery for the city and where people are going and coming from. So I'm not sure that this matters much, but I do know that there was some discussion early on, a couple of years ago actually, about Fair Oaks, changes to the sort of the 110 and Fair Oaks intersection and some of the sort of freeway off-ramp, on-ramp. So will that have any impact? Is that thought to potentially have any impact on, if that were to go through, and maybe you know better about what the status of that is, but on whether or not motorists will use Fair Oaks more frequently or more likely to use Fair Oaks than Fremont? Because it seems like there's a lot, you know, sort of focus on Fremont, but you know, some of the other sort of optimizing some of the other alternatives, is that also a consideration?
I can take that. So ideally, we want to keep our traffic on Fair Oaks Avenue, and that the city top one priority as far as the moving of the traffic through the city. And we have a lot of projects which are presently in the pipeline. Some are at the design construction stage, the other one at the design stage, and the other one is at the study stage. So all these projects, what they're trying to do is to calm the traffic on Fremont Avenue, convert into a complete street, a neighborhood street, you know, so we can calm the traffic down and remove the cut through traffic, which is the direct traffic back onto Fair Oaks Avenue. The key to that is improve the travel time and remove the delays as much as possible on Fair Oaks Avenue, so the traffic is really encouraged or motivated to stay on Fair Oaks Avenue. So we have projects which also includes reconstruction of the interchange at 110 and making other improvements throughout along the Fair Oaks Avenue, like improving the traffic signal synchronization, installing the new traffic signals which are easily and more efficiently interconnected. And of course, whatever we may do within the city of Sunnyvale, we have to have a cooperation or working closely with our both cities, Alhambra and Pasadena, because the traffic coming from Alhambra go to Pasadena. So we can push the traffic all the way on Fair Oaks Avenue, and then if Pasadena is not pushing the traffic, it will again start back up onto our street. So we are working very closely with both the cities, especially Pasadena, and we are sharing all our plans, efforts with Pasadena, and we have an excellent relationship. And I was glad to see that they have a similar plans to continue the same improvements which are planning on Fair Oaks Avenue into the city of Pasadena, and then back onto 710.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions or anything related to traffic around that I can answer? We have two of our traffic officers on, so they're also able to answer questions if anybody has.
I have an additional question about traffic on Monterey. We're talking about the intersection of Fremont and Monterey, but how is traffic that's flowing on Monterey getting to Fremont impacting what we're seeing at that intersection? Is that is that feeding Fremont in both directions, or is it just kind of cut across?
It's a combination that we've seen, both going into Los Angeles and then going primarily, depending on the day and the time, it could be either going north or south feeding Fremont. Obviously, in the morning, we tend to see more going south, and then later in the day, it shifts patterns and goes north. But it does add to that congestion, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I'm wondering if, because I see you did the study in 2014 and then in 20. I'm wondering the decrease between 2014 and 19, only because did we have a large decrease because of COVID in 2020? Were you able to look at that and the impact of?
No, we weren't able to look in terms of whether or not COVID impacted. I'm sure it did, obviously, for a period of time. When we did the study in 2020, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Abbas, was that was prior to the COVID impact. So COVID would not be reflective of that. Talking internally, it is our belief that the traffic numbers are still there. They've just been shifted off to other routes within the city.
I see.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
study was collected much before COVID, hit. So it was during a normal day. Keep in mind, my feeling is somewhere down the line between these years, I think the metro increased their train frequency gold line along this track, which created more congestion. If you go on a normal day and see the traffic all the way from the railroad crossing backs up to the Mission and sometimes even past further south of Mission, it's just because the track keep coming up and down and it messes up all the progression. I think that diverted the traffic. That's my professional opinion. And that could be one of the cause. Otherwise, I don't find any other cause, which has impacted that, because the roads stay the same. We didn't make any changing into the configurations. So that would be the impact, of the traffic going elsewhere.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director Boss, and everybody else who joined for this agenda item. Why don't we move forward to, unless you have anything further, Chief?
I just need a motion to move this forward to council, please.
Of course. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a
I
motion to forward.
Okay, I heard Ed. Ed's made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is that Lindsay? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Kung,
Aye.
Commissioner Watson,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Angelatz,
Aye.
Commissioner Ding,
Yes.
and I will vote yes, so it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Terrific, thank you. All right, let's move into council communications. Councilmember Primith.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that Fremont corridor is getting some attention, and thank you for the study that was done. It's an intersection I know very well. I probably go through that northbound and southbound 6-7 times a week. And really the issue is northern Fremont for me, because that's starting to get significantly backed up as people have returned to work. Almost the entire length from Columbia down to Foothill, even beyond the track, has been impacted completely bumper to bumper. So anyway, there's a number of points to address, including pedestrian safety. The people living on Foothill feel like they can't cross Fremont. It's very dangerous. So pedestrian safety and pedestrian improvements, I think, are important. And we saw a lot of that in the plan that was attached to the report. So I'm sure we'll have a really good discussion at council. And thank you, Director Boss, for staying on top of this. I know you have a lot of good ideas. I have met last week with the council member for Pasadena, whose district abuts the northern area where Fremont intersects. And he has reassured me that he wants to keep coordination going. I know that Director Abbas and the Pasadena staff have a really good working relationship. I was able to personally meet with the Director of Transportation for Pasadena, and she assured me that they will be coordinating with us to make sure our flow through, traffic is coordinated. They are also trying to shift that cut through traffic to eastern to Fair Oaks, just like we are. So I would expect, hopefully we could have some joint efforts that actually make a dent in that. On the council agenda for Wednesday night is really one action item only, and that's the budget. There are a number of policy issues that we're going to be probably talking about. We have a number of departments that I'm sure will have specific discussion and public comment. This will be our second full meeting with our city manager, Armine Chaparian, and she's been excellent so far. So I'm really looking forward to working with her. Anything else going on? Any questions you have for what's going on with council? If not, then I will conclude my report.
Thank you very much. All right, why don't we move into staff liaison communications? Should we start with Chief Selinsky?
Great, thank you. First, the city manager regrets that she couldn't be here this morning. Her calendar was full, but her intention is to meet with each group as soon as possible. So she does send her greetings, and she will be on at the next meeting. I have one quick comment to make, and that is at the last meeting, some of the commissioners asked about South Pass Connect, or a better way for the city to communicate with its residents during emergencies or times of community concern. And we have Connect South Pass, which is a free system that residents can log into. They can go on the city's website, click on the link, and input their information. And that way, any alerts that come out from the city, be it traffic or any other significant information that needs to come out, you can receive information via a landline telephone, a cell phone, text message, and via email. And again, that is South Pass Connect, and it's on our city website. That has also been put into a number of our different individual department websites and sent out on the Neighborhood Pulse newsletter. So I just wanted to follow up on that. And that is all I have. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has anything that they'd like to ask. If not, that'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Sanderson.
Good morning and thank you. Again, Chief Riddle also extends his apologies for not being able to be here. He had a prior appointment that he was not able to change. It was time sensitive, so he does apologize for not being here today. Only two issues to mention that obviously with the drought and this expected heat wave that's coming, fuel moisture is already at a critical level for wildland brush incidents. So we do anticipate that this was going to be a very active year throughout the state. It's already pretty active in Arizona and Nevada. We expect that that will increase in activity here in California as well. And we expect that our resources will be deployed throughout the state through the summer and into the fall. We don't expect anything to change. Monsoon flow hopefully will give us a little bit of reprieve, but we don't expect fuel moistures to come back up. So this could be a very active year. And then the only other item that the chief had for me was that we do have an open recruitment right now for firefighter paramedic within the department to plan for succession planning as potential retirements are on the horizon. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Captain or Chief Anderson just reminded me of one thing. The cooling centers. The War Memorial will be opening as a cooling center for days over 96 degrees. I just wanted to make sure we got that out for our residents or anybody that needs that. So days over 96, War Memorial.
Right.
And to add to that, yeah, that obviously senior center, modified hours, and library, still modified hours. Been in contact with Kathy and with Sheila for those two facilities. So thank you for bringing that up, Chief Selinsky, and adding to with the War Memorial, that helps out a bit. That's all I have. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. All right. Commissioner communications. I'm just going to go by the order on the screen. Commissioner Kung.
Hi there. Last time when I reported, public schools ended a week and a half ago. Since then, there was I think some summer camps being held at the middle school. Today is actually the first official day of summer school, and they had some in-person classes at Marengo Elementary and at middle school. The high schoolers are actually all distance learning, so they're online. So if you do see some children out there, it's because of summer school and also some concurrent camps going on. So the elementary and middle school summer school sessions 4 weeks long, so they will end July 9th. High school's 5 weeks, so they end one more week after that, but they're distance learning, so they're not really out there. But high school has also opened up a recreational sports in addition to their normal summer training camp, so all students can join there. So they're slowly going back to normal. The new school year in the fall will begin August 12th, and their plan is to be just back to normal, regular in person. So that's the update for all our schools, and we'll see how traffic goes then. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Chris. All right, Commissioner Watson.
Sure. Commissioner Donnelly and I have been working on a report for in regards to unarmed traffic stops, and we should have a report hopefully at our next monthly meeting. That's our plan right now.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Commissioner Angelots.
No major report, but wanted to thank the chief for spending some time out of his day to help orient me to the commission and bring me on board to the good work. We had a good discussion about a lot of the mental health initiatives related to concurrent responses that are appropriate between public safety and mental health as we serve our homeless neighbors. So thank you very much, Chief.
That's great. Thank you, Lindsay. Commissioner Dane.
Yeah, I just had a couple of things I wanted to ask about. The first one was public comment. I know that council has gone to live Zoom public comment, and email public comment just gets put in the agenda, but is not played. Is that something on the horizon for our commissions? You know?
Yeah, we're going to be resorting back to the same format as the council meetings. So
Okay.
Public comments should be played both written and via Zoom. So as we transition back, we'll get back into that typical format.
So for now, if a public comment is emailed, are we required to play it or read it versus just adding it to the agenda? Or do we know the answer to that?
That I will have to find out.
Okay, I was just curious because kind of like, as I was listening to the robot read the entire URL, I was wondering, is there a better way to do this than to have it that way? But yeah, so that was my main concern. The other one is that I would like to propose a school safety agenda item over the next 2 or 3 months before school starts to address just generally school safety, the SRO, if there's a new posture of the SRO or any of that stuff, because I know that was kind of a hot topic last year, where we were talking a lot about police reform and the appropriate duties of the SRO or interactions of the SRO. So just things like that I'd be interested in hearing more about. So I just want to propose that.
Absolutely, we can get that on before the start of the school year.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Commissioner Donnelly.
The only thing I have this month is also to thank Chief Zielinski. He recently gave a little tour of the police station, was able to meet some more of the staff and really get a sense of what happens behind that front entrance, because I've never been anywhere inside before. So thank you, Chief. Other than that, I have nothing to contribute.
All right, thanks, Ed. I I don't have anything specific, but I also wanted to thank Lisa and Ed for taking on it. I spoke to Lisa a bit last week to get an update on all the work that they're doing on the subcommittee. It's significant. It sounds like they've been incredibly thorough. So thank you both. And it sounds like, Ed, you've been calling long distance a bit to get some international input. So I appreciate you spending the time to do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing the report when it comes out next.
Yeah, and one thing I learned is that the UK has different daylight savings time than we do. So when you schedule an early morning Zoom, you have to be very careful.
Sounds like you learned it the hard way. So thank you both for that. Looking forward to the report next meeting, and then thank you to Chief Zielinski. There's been a few opportunities over the past couple of months where you've gotten ahead of some items that are coming up and have been very responsive and communicative. So I very much appreciate that. And yeah, and otherwise looking forward to seeing you all next time. I did actually have one question. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know if maybe we're all sort of on pause while the city manager gets up to speed and these decisions start being made, but are we assuming that we're still going to roll through on Zoom next meeting, at least for next meeting? Do we know?
I'll find out something definitive shortly, but it's my understanding that we will start going live probably by next meeting, most likely. But I will have something definitive for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and look forward to seeing you all next month.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.